He has a 1-1 count. That one's struck high. Left side. That one's going. That's out of here off the wall. You have to be kidding me. Fireworks. Here you go.
Class 1A fans, welcome in. It's a new week. Andrew, we have a month's worth of new rankings at the end of today, which is kind of crazy. Week 4 of the new rankings coming your way in a matter of seconds. Class 1A fans, we are happy to be here. Class 1A has been a ton of fun, obviously. A lot of great storylines and another week full of movement, I should say, inside of our poll. Again, welcoming everybody. If you're checking out this, be sure to check out the actual High and Tight episode, which we'll be dropping early this week too. Andrew and I giving more opinions on the side of things across the state of Iowa. We always incorporate some fun games and try and talk about as many different teams as possible. So be sure to go check that out. But you're here for 1A rankings, and we're gonna give that to you. Here we go, 15 through 11 in Class 1A, Week 4, and we've got a new team inside the rankings. It is Woodbine, and Woodbine, they're just one of 2 teams left without a loss in Class 1A. It is them and a pretty good company alongside them in Lynnville-Sully. Woodbine, you can't slouch them. 10 wins. Maybe it's not against the craziest competition. I see a win over Alta Aurelia. That's always good down the road. Beat IKM. We'll talk about IKM later in this little show here for what they just did on Saturday, I do believe. But they're just winning games, and they're led by Mr. Groover. He's leading the team in hits. Carter Groover, I should say, the junior, leading him in hits, leading him in innings pitched. He has yet to give up an earned run through 17 2/3. He's racked up 3 wins on the mound already, and he's got a WHIP of .34. Whew. I would not want to face Carter Groover anytime soon. But now Woodbine, kind of the story here in this little subsection for me. Andrew, who sticks out to you?
Well, for me, it's going to have to be the well-known baseball of Tri-Center. I mean, what a good job they have done so far. By my account, 4-5-1 on the week. They've had a strong season. Unfortunately, they're not going to join that elite group with Woodbine as one of undefeated teams, as this week was their week to take their first loss against Logan Magnolia. However, this is a team that has been doing a lot defensively, offensively. They've only given up more than 5 runs 4 times across their entire slate so far this season. So defensively, pitching-wise, they're pretty strong and stout. They don't allow a whole lot there. And then, of course, on the other end, they've had a couple big games, 15 runs twice, 1 game of 13 runs, and they're hitting at a near 5 plus 5, I should say, run differential. So they're working it real well as they keep moving on. So, yeah, I like this team. And what's scary is that this team not only can do well now, but has the potential to go forward with some big wins. They play Trainer twice, Underwood, IKM Manning, and they have Audubon, Woodbury Central. So really, they've got a good slate coming on up in which they can vault themselves really high. And so the path is laid out for them. It's up to them where they go.
Yeah, absolutely. Tri-Center dropping down 1 spot in this week's rankings, but some other movement here is Grandview Christian. They rise up 1 from 15 to 14. Galen Catholic takes a little bit of a dive this week. They drop 4 spots, but they'll hang out inside the top 15. And then Key and the Key Hawks, they rise again, I believe, I guess they dropped last week, but Key continually finding a spot in our rankings. They're 1 spot outside of the top 10. Speaking of the top 10, let's show it right here, Andrew. We've got 2 teams. Our biggest jump this week was 3, and we've got 2 teams that jumped up 3 spots. Wapsie Valley, I'll go ahead and talk about them first. My goodness, they're 15-5 already. They've played 20 games, which I feel like is a lot in Class 1A at this point, racking up some good wins. They've got wins over Olween, North Lynn. They're building their resume. Losses to Jessup. It's not a bad loss by any means. Losses to I guess I shouldn't say the number, a top team in Burlington, Notre Dame, Applington, Parkersburg. So this team is playing a ton of games. They lead the class in strikeouts, mostly because they've played so many games. But I mean, offensively, they got 4 guys with 20 plus hits already in Briar Dellis, Caden Dana, Tucker Laderberg, and Jacob Shower. They're hitting 293 as a team, and then they got a staff ERA of 2.19, and it's Laderberg leading the way on the hill, 26 innings, 33 strikeouts, and a whip below 1. Wapsie Valley, a team I liked last year heading into the postseason, obviously didn't make it to state. A team I'm liking already this year, and I mean they're just going out there and they're playing a ton of games. They've got a big double header. It looks like tomorrow against Sumner Fredericksburg, so that one should be a ton of fun.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I like that. Again, that was a good pick. Certainly one that I had my eye on, but I had my eye on another team here as well, Cade. As I take a look, for me, it would be none other than the Sigourney Savages. I love that name, by the way. That's one of my all-time favorite team names here as we go through 1A. Absolutely love them. And what I love is that they have 5 games in which they have poked across 10 or more runs this season. They have been really efficient with the bat. They have done a whole lot when it comes to that program here. And honestly, they're a top 10 team in total bases. They're hitting at a clip of 356, and they're on base at a mark of over 500. That means half the time they're finding their way onto the base paths. And what really stands out to me is that they're not relying on the extra base hits. They're really just going and playing good baseball. If it's station to station, they do that. Only 3 extra base hits, yet they are one of the top 10 teams in the class in total bases. That has to tell you something, and it tells me quite a lot. It really speaks volumes there. And on the pitching side of things, Caden Clarahan, the junior has been rocking it up. 30 strikeouts through just 19 innings pitched. You know, teams hitting less than $150 against him. He's been absolutely rocking it there. And again, hitting wise, like I mentioned, really doing one. Clarahan, I mentioned one, but I'll mention him again. He's again their top hitter. But Moore, Mullinex, McKay, Burns. You go down the line. You've got some guys, a lot of them with 10 or more hits in 1A here as we go through. I believe their 12th game coming on up of the season. That's pretty spectacular. They've done a lot of good things to get to this mark. They should be well noted.
Yeah, Sigourney hanging with Lynnville-Sully. That score kind of stuck out to me. I mean, no one's hung with Lynnville-Sully, it felt like, to this point. So seeing a 1-run game with them obviously put a little thought into our 1A rankers head here. The rest of the teams rounding out this group: North Lynn, Ankeny Christian, and St. Ansgar. Those 3 teams all drop in the rankings, but they will hang out inside of our top 10. Let's get into the top 5, though. And if you're noticing, Newman Catholic, they're not in the 6 through 10 group. Well, that's because they rose into the top 5. Newman Catholic, they've yet to lose to a 1A opponent yet. Their only loss are to Van Meter, Algona, and Assumption. So, Andrew, not too bad of a resume so far to be 3 losses. People might shrug their shoulders at, but they're perfect in their own class, and that's a tribute to a top 5 team here.
Well, and gosh, I got to see him this weekend at the Catholic Classic in Des Moines, and oof. If anybody had any doubts, not like there's much, like you said, to give doubts about, but if you had any, it was all wiped away when they played Xavier. Wow. Kirsten, by the way, Toby Kirsten, I don't know if that home run ball that he shot out to right center field, I don't know if that's landed yet. So we'll have to check on that, where that is, maybe in orbit somewhere. This is a team that can hit, that can pitch. They put out Henrich onto the mound here, one of their top hurlers, and he went as far as he could. He went the distance. And what really is scary is that this Newman team has depth at pitching. They have depth everywhere else. So you get to Saturday, you've used all your guys, and then you got to worry about what's coming up the next week. You got pitch counts and everything to worry about. So it was something that it was really cool. You know, they were down big early, 6-3, and then they came back and they ended up taking that one and touching up double digits against a Xavier team that you saw, Bacade, do phenomenal things against Prairie. So I think, it's one of the other, but man, Newman really impressed me beyond what they thought they were capable of, and that's a lot to begin with.
Absolutely, that's the gorgeous thing about baseball is just any given day, it could be anybody, and the disparity from game to game is just insane, and that's why the postseason is just nuts because no one knows what's gonna happen, and that's can't be
Yeah.
more true. No one knows. So Newman Catholic, they rise up one spot and find themselves at number 5, as Andrew said. You got to see them in person, and they look like a force. Speaking of a force, though, Akron-Westfield. This team, we talked about it last week, a team that was preseason unranked, and now here they are, a staple inside the top 5 on a week-to-week basis. They've got one loss in the season, and it's to a team 2 classes above them in MOC Floyd Valley. And since that loss, Andrew, I don't know if that just made them mad or something. But they've gone 12-2, 25-1, and 15-0, and then a 10-0 win. So they've just been blanking teams since that first loss. They've got some stars. I love their balance and senior leaders in Terpstra and McCauley, but they also have some young guys you like in Hartman, in Wahlberg. I think we're kind of circling on our calendar a certain game with Akron-Westfield and a certain somebody else coming up in the next few weeks. We've got something circled with them, but Akron-Westfield, I can't wait to see these guys play.
Yeah, they are very fun to watch. You mentioned McCauley, Terpstra, Nielsen, Hartman, Wahlberg. I mean, you go down the line, you got guys that are there. This is a senior heavy led team, and you can tell when they get to the batter's box. They are number 1 in Class 1A in fewest strikeouts, and that is 39. And again, Woodbine, as you mentioned, 41, but then the next team would be Burlington Notre Dame at 48. So this is a patient team. And then you talked about it, their numbers are astronomical, 114 RBIs. They've walked 66 times already. That's a top 15-10 mark. And of course, on base at nearly 500. So this is a team that's going to hurt you every which way possible. And it's fun, man. They have come a long way. They are making what the War Eagle Conference, mainly dominated by a few teams, Akron-Westfield starting to become into that conversation that says, hey, we're here as a perennial power. Coach Johnson and company have a great thing going there.
Absolutely. The team, I guess, we're talking about in that War Eagle Conference, a potential title matchup is Remsen St. Mary's, and they find themselves here at number 3. A really good week for Remsen St. Mary's. Obviously, we talked last weekend, 2 really good wins over Bishop Heelan and Kemper Catholic. This week, they come out, they blank Harris Lake Park, they blank Trinity Christian, dominate Ridgeview, beat up on MMCRU. I mean, this team is just I wouldn't want to be on the tracks when this train's coming through because they are playing really good baseball right now. An interesting one I'm seeing looks like a tournament game with Unity Christian this coming week, which could be fun as they kind of get ready for that game against Akron-Westfield for what could be the conference title. But I mean, Remsen St. Mary's, I'm looking at their stats, Andrew. There's not a lot of seniors on this team. This is a team that we're gonna have a lot of familiar names with coming back next year. And I mean, Holman and Waldschmidt on the hill, along with Dane and Locks. I mean, in every single facet, this team is just dominating.
Yeah, I mean, offensively, they've had 5 games of 10 or more scoring runs, and they have had several games. In fact, as I look, 4 games in which they blanked teams. You've mentioned already they've done that this week, and ultimately, there is not a game on this schedule for them in which they have given up. Actually, I should take that back. 1 game in which they've had given up more than 5 runs. So this is it's interesting. This is a team that you thought, man, how are they going to regroup? But they're doing just that and more. I think at this point, you just got to let them show you that they're in or out, right? And trying to see where they are, how they will be. I mean, I think this is great in the sense that, hey, they're a predictable program. We know that they're always going to be competitive in there. So I like them, man. They're headed for a showdown, like you said, against AW. We'll see where that ends up. We'd certainly love to catch that one. But, man, it's something to be said. The War Eagle Conference has sent multiple teams to the state tournament here over the last 3-4 years. So we could potentially see it again. A lot of good teams from that conference, and this team being at the lead.
Absolutely, Andrew. Well, there's 2 teams in Class 1A that rank in the top 5 in team ERA and team batting average, and those 2 teams are number 1 and 2 in Class 1A. Starting with number 2, no change this week. It is Lynnville-Sully, the only undefeated team left remaining in Class 1A. They are 15-0. Found some ways to win some close games this last week, which is a good sign because they've been dominating everybody, and those teams you kind of worry about. When you dominate everybody all year and then you run into some close games in the postseason, you never know how you could react to that. So it's good to see them winning some close games, getting that type of experience under their belt. This week for Lynnville-Sully, Keota, PCM, Moravia, Colfax, Mingo, and it looks like a doubleheader with West Marshall, which could be a ton of fun. West Marshall of Class 2A. So Lynnville-Sully, I mean, you talk about stat freaks, Andrew. I know you always got the stats and the numbers. Lynnville-Sully might be the biggest stat freak of a team in Class 1A.
They have the most extra base hits out of any team in 1A at this point. I mean, they are absolutely rocking it, and it's not by a whole lot, but man, Burlington Notre Dame, you talked about 1 and 2 there. Burlington Notre Dame right up there in terms of extra base hits. So this is a team that only needs 1 to get on. You turn them around, and I like them. I mean, obviously, Nounharder is a guy we talk about a lot, but gosh, they're just onto such a tear. It's hard for anybody who's in their path to do anything against them. I mean, you take a look at it; they go 6, 7 deep in terms of guys who have hit 10 or more hits on the season. So they've done what they needed to do, and this is the team that goes against the guys that are struggling. They dominate, and in fact, they dominated everywhere. 15-0. That's just hard. That's hard to beat.
Exactly. Yeah, one team left here in Class 1A. It is Burlington Notre Dame. They did suffer their first loss of the season, but nothing to worry about there. It was against 4A Cedar Falls, and even that game they hung with them. That was a 6-9 score.
Yeah.
And on the same day, they took down a 4A opponent in North Scott. So Burlington Notre Dame, not perfect on the year anymore, but when you're playing Class 4A teams as a 1A program, you're bound to fall to somebody, and they did to Cedar Falls. But Burlington Notre Dame is just as much of a stat freak as Lynnville-Sully. These guys are putting up really great numbers, I should say. They're a team we were super high on in the preseason, and it's paying off right now. Burlington Notre Dame is a wagon.
Oh my gosh! I mean, again, they're hitting at right around a +6.5 run differential there. They've been solid. They've beaten the teams that they need to, right? Any team above 500, they're perfect with right now. And again, that's within their class, especially. But again, it's been a fun one. They've also beaten the teams like Fort Madison in 3A as well, and they've been all over the board. They've won the big games like Don Bosco 16-10. They've won the tight, close-knit games, several of those here. But ultimately, as I look through their schedule right now, they have yet to have a game in which they have won anyway, in which they have won by 1 run, or I think even 2 runs at this point as I look through the schedule. So 3 runs or less, they have had that good cushion, right? So they find a way. The little things go right for them, and they do a lot of well. So hey, they've earned that number 1 spot.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate all the Class 1A fans for tuning in. This was week 4 of Class 1A. If you haven't, go check out the other rankings. Go check out the high and tight episode. Be sure to share this with a friend. Share this with a parent. I feel like we're well known as far as the kids and coaches go, but maybe not the parents on Facebook. So if you're seeing this, send this to your mom, your dad, your uncle, whoever it may be that wants to catch up on Class 1A rankings. We appreciate you guys all for tuning in. My name's Kate, obviously joined by Andrew. We will catch you next week, 1A fans.